song. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking, and it's that time again.
WrestleMania, baby! Woo!
And that means I'm taking a look at WWE 2K23, released on March 17th, 2023. Yes, I know, BioShock Infinite is coming, but anyone who has played that game knows the Sherlock mind palacing I have to do to try to explain everything. I'm taking notes! For those NBA or Madden fans out there, yes, WWE 2K is the only big yearly sports series that has the year it's released in the title instead of the following year. Makes much more sense given how outdated these games are almost immediately. The release of WWE 2K23 was a strange one. For months, 2K wouldn't shut up about the addition of War Games and Bad Bunny.
Saw a guy do this in a toothpaste ad once. Ta-da!
Well, cool, it began to make people think they were asking us to pay $60 to $120 for one new match type and a celebrity. They said the other modes were updated, but didn't actually bother showing any of those updates until days before the deluxe edition's release on March 14th. Gameplay footage ahead of release may have been as visible as the cover star, but a good ad presence doesn't always mean a good product. Here's looking at you, YouTube Premium. Once again, I'll be ranking each game mode by their quality, and I'll be going over any distinct changes. With the bright lights of Hollywood turning our way, let's make sure to give it everything we've got! WWE 2K22 came out at a weird time in the world of sports entertainment. NXT 2.0 had debuted about 6 months before release, and WrestleMania 38 was on the horizon, meaning the whole host of new stars brought into the then Rainbow brand weren't present, and fans immediately began to clamor for Cody Rhodes after his stupendous return against Seth middle name freakin' Rollins. Luckily, those issues have been addressed in 2K23. They were quick to show off the American Nightmare, and the game also sees the debut of new NXT standouts like Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, Toxic Attraction, Roxanne Perez, Grayson Waller, Cora Jade, and many more. However, there are still some prevalent issues with them. Cora Jade betrayed Roxanne Perez in July of last year, yet she still has her pre-turn gear and entrance theme, though she has her heel graphics. Also, as weird as this may sound, it seems like 2K is vehemently opposed to accurately capturing the bodies of certain wrestlers. For example, here's Bayley in the game, here's Bayley in real life. Here's Julius Creed in the game, here's Julius Creed in real life. Here's Roxanne Perez in the game, here's Roxanne Perez in real life. Here's Solo Sikoa in the game, and here's Solo Sikoa in real life. Why can't all the models look as good as Gunther's?
Pause, sir.
Over now.
Pause, sir. 10-4.
Then they decided to advertise and hype up the DLC character packs before the game's release, which is a strange choice, especially when you realize they just took a bunch of wrestlers people want that were probably originally in the base game and locked them behind another paywall, like Tony D'Angelo, Joe Gacy, Pretty Deadly, the OC, and Trick Williams, just to name a few. As for the actual gameplay these wrestlers will be partaking in, it hasn't changed much from last year. New moves and animations have been added, and a couple small adjustments have been made. For starters, they removed the rollout mechanic in multi-man matches, which is terrible. Not only do you have matches where no one sells a single move, but it's now virtually impossible to get someone on their own in a match with 3 or more people. There are gameplay sliders that can make this better, but we shouldn't have to code the game ourselves because they removed a valuable feature.
Sounds like you haven't heard of a little thing called modern gaming.
The other noted change is reducing the notches needed to win a ladder match from 8 to 5. I actually like this change because now every wrestler isn't Jack Swagger unhooking the briefcase at WrestleMania 26. One big complaint I have is how the stadium shows are treated. Nothing about the stadium shows make them feel like big spectacles except they have a bit more people, I guess. The Royal Rumble doesn't have the long curved ramp, WrestleMania doesn't have the large set and ramp showing off the grandeur of the Showcase of the Immortals, and so on. I get that all the ramps have to be the same size to fit the entrance animations, but there has to be a way to change that, even if it's an awkward crowd cut so the wrestlers can teleport farther down the stage, something to truly make us feel the proper scale of these big events. Now let's get into the modes. Oh look, it's still at the bottom. My faction is the microtransaction card pack opening mode that all yearly release sports games have, and is the sole reason EA Tiburon feels they can continue to get away with charging $70 for the same game every year. There's just no fun to be had here. Everything you can do in my faction can be done in other modes much easier. You can do 4-on-4 matches with any team you want without having to pull cards and use contracts on them. Even the big new feature, online play, which I bashed 2K 2K22's My Factions were not having can be done outside of My Faction. Well, in theory, given that the servers run on potato power, but that potato is dead.
Die, potato!
And the main problem from before still stands. There's no incentive to spend your money trying to pull high value cards when you have to play every single My Faction match you do. Your Liv Morgan card may have a fancy blue border while my Liv Morgan card has a basic white border, but that doesn't mean jack if I'm better at the game than you. Yes, it's better than the game mode being pay to win, but it means there's absolutely no reason for the game mode to exist. It's a paradoxical cycle of meaninglessness that would even make Nietzsche say, "Whoa, calm down, comrade." Honestly, my advice to 2K is to completely scrap the mode and rebuild it as something like the Adventure Time Card Wars mobile game that was taken down in 2019 for no good reason. A fun and unique card game where each wrestler has different abilities and moves that can be combined to create different strategies and used in a story-like mode and an online mode could be a great way to extend the game's shelf life. This year's showcase is all about Mr. Hustle, Loyalty, and Respect, the franchise, the face that runs the place, the doctor of thugonomics, the prototype, Peacemaker himself, John Cena. For the first time in Showcase history, you aren't just looking at a borderline self-filleting retrospective of a WWE Superstar's biggest wins. This year, it's all about Cena's signature catchphrase, "Never give up," going through some of his biggest losses in his career, while Cena himself talks about how he bounced back after it. All without mentioning that he would eventually get his wins back over all but one of them. Right off the bat, this is the best Showcase as you're not playing as the same exact wrestler for 14 straight matches. You play as the person who beat Cena, though you still follow objectives leading to clips from the actual matches, which I do appreciate. This mode also has the best completion reward ever. In fact, it's so good that I'm actually going to give you a spoiler warning if you haven't finished it yet and want to go in blind. The first bonus match sees you picking from all of the people you've played as in the mode, picking who you believe to be Cena's biggest rival, as Cena tries to get his win back. And no, you can't pick someone else. You think you know John Cena better than John Cena? Regardless of who you pick, the match is essentially a recreation of Kofi Kingston's title defense against Brock Lesnar, and I have just shown you that whole match.
Wow. That was fast.
Afterwards, Cena decides to be nice and offer you a fair rematch. Only, it isn't fair, as you are instead going up against 100 overall, literally invisible Super Cena. And yes, you do unlock Super Cena after winning the match. The final bonus match is admittedly not as great as the other two, just a fatal 4-way elimination match with John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, and Bruno Sammartino, but it's still fun. There is still a problem of what matches were selected though, as important Cena losses like his loss to Seth Rollins at SummerSlam 2015, Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam 2013, and CM Punk at Money in the Bank 2011 aren't included, the latter two admittedly having valid reasons to be excluded in favor of much less memorable matches. Also, it's still a mode you do once, if at all, and then never touch again, but as long as they continue to innovate and have fun with it, they may continue to improve its quality and get more people to play it.
Let's go!
Holy crap, the Mad Lads actually updated Universe Mode. Granted, it's one small change in a mode that needs many. Now, when booking rivalries in Universe Mode, you actually have control over which actions will take place, allowing for a variety of cutscenes to play to further the stories you want to tell. There are plenty of bugs in the mode, though, that really need to be patched out, and it's still infuriating that premium live events are only available on Sundays, given that every WWE PLE in 2022 was on a Saturday. Also, WrestleMania is a 2-night show now, which also needs to be reflected in Universe Mode already. It's been a thing since 2020. I've said it once, and I'll say it again. Universe Mode is the most replayable mode in the game, and the single most important mode when it comes to making the game last until the following year. Not making it a priority in development is a huge mistake that they continue to make year after year. How do they fail to see the potential in a mode that puts you in the shoes of Triple H, allowing you to control every aspect of WWE programming and presentation? You can do a modern run of Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, you can relive the Monday Night Wars between Raw and WCW Nitro, you can create your own shows to create a war between WWE and AEW, or just do an AEW universe as you wait eternally for AEW Fight Forever. So much potential just waiting to be capitalized on, wasted every single year. But hey, at least they brought advanced entrances back. Should have never left. Speaking of which, when are we getting promos back? Also, how come War Games is only available in 2 arenas? I know it's technically 3, but taking the NXT War Games arena and taking the NXT off the logo does not constitute a new arena. Oh yeah, there's also Superstar mode, where you pick one WWE superstar and influence where their career goes. It's still bad, and still useless. I like the small addition of showing what their goal is at the beginning, but the AI is still as strong as a video game from the late 90s. For example, I decided to play around as Bayley to get footage, and the very first match I was given was Bayley and Becky Lynch teaming up against Io Sky and Dakota Kai.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
For those who don't know, Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai are a trio known as Damage Control. They suck and lose all the time, but that's beside the point, and one of their primary rivals is Becky Lynch. You could not book a more wrong match than the tag match I was given.
At no point were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
I would just like more than minor updates that could easily be patches every year. Is that so much to ask? The mobile game has been updated. The modern version of the old GM mode has seen quite a few upgrades and changes in 2K23. For starters, the mode now supports up to 4 players who can choose from a roster of GMs that includes Adam Pearce, Sonya Deville for some reason, Stephanie McMahon, Kurt Angle, Mick Foley, Eric Bischoff, Xavier Woods, and Tyler Breeze, along with expanding the shows to choose from to now be Raw, SmackDown, NXT, NXT 2.0, and WCW. Not Nitro or Thunder, just WCW. You also have a bit of control over the starting budget for the draft, as well as the difficulty of the mode and the AI if you're playing with them. The biggest changes are the addition of seasons and the Hall of Fame. Each season of MyGM is locked to 25 weeks. You're still trying to book shows that beat your opponents to get more fans and money than them while completing commissioner goals and superstar favors with the end goal of having the most fans after WrestleMania, but it doesn't end at WrestleMania. You roll right into the next season with a new draft. The ultimate goal is to collect Hall of Fame trophies by completing specific tasks. Also, what you can do on the show has been expanded. The shows finally have mid-card titles, and you can finally book triple threat and fatal 4-way matches, along with a whole host of new match types. Though it is annoying that triple threat and fatal 4-ways can't be title matches, I don't see how that was overlooked or specifically made a choice. And with those new match types comes new power cards to boost them, along with new power cards to really screw over your opponent, nearly rivaling the friendship-ending power of Mario Party. I don't like the mode being stuck at 25 weeks, especially given how messed up the PLE schedule is, but everything else about the mode is a wholesale upgrade. It would easily be number 1, if not for the other mode also being a wholesale upgrade. Okay, so this ranking is exactly the same as last year's, but don't let that take away from how great My Rise is this year. Visual Concepts went back to having a story-driven career mode while taking elements from 2K22's My Rise and creating a perfect marriage of the two. This year's My Rise is split into 2 gender-exclusive stories. The men's story is called The Lock, and the women's story is called The Legacy. The Lock sees you play as WWE's next big thing, essentially branding you as the newest Drew McIntyre, Brock Lesnar, or Austin Theory.
A-Town.
Let's
The Legacy sees you play as the niece of a WWE Hall of Famer, struggling between honoring her legacy and blazing your own path. Personally, I think The Legacy is stronger as a whole, but The Lock is also great and goes in directions that really make you forget at times that this is an officially licensed WWE product. However, The Lock does not feature Becky Lynch saying, "Enough with your banana babbling, I know you stole my oatmeal," so it's immediately not as good. On that subject, the voice acting this year is so much better, although you can tell they either had to work around the tight schedule of WWE Superstars or just wanted to cut costs because you see a lot of the same wrestlers. For example, Sami Zayn is very prevalent throughout both stories. I'm not complaining though, Sami Zayn is amazing. My one main complaint is that The Legacy features way too many tag matches in a game where tag matches are programmed to be incredibly annoying, especially now that wrestlers don't sell or roll out. I don't want to spoil where the stories go because they're both a lot of fun and by far the best My Rise / My Career modes that have been featured in any of these games. The personalities of the wrestlers are perfectly captured, all while putting them in scenarios I promise you have never seen them in before. A lot of the side missions are also very fun, making it very clear that this is where a majority of the development time went. Now let's hit the finish and go home. This may be recency bias, or the refreshing change of pace to not be talking about the political messages laced through an impossible city filled with madmen assholes all trying to kill you, but I think this is safely the best WWE 2K game I have played. For those who haven't seen my video on 2K22, which you should, I have played every game since 2K17, so I would rank them from worst to best: 2K20, 2K18, 2K17, 2K19, 2K22, and 2K23 at the top. My faction and universe mode were both virtually untouched from before, and the fact that my faction still exists mean this game is not going to get a 10 out of 10, and universe mode going unloved needs to stop being a yearly tradition. However, the improvements made to showcase my GM and my rise easily outweigh those negative aspects. 2K desperately needed this game to continue to be a step in the right direction, and that's exactly what it was. If they can continue to build on this and make each game better, we may truly enter the wrestling game renaissance. And, you know, if AEW can ever get their shit together and release their one game. The people at Visual Concepts are very clearly wrestling fans who want to create good games for other wrestling fans, while also poking fun at themselves and the industry as a whole. The line about 2K20's development did not go unappreciated.
We haven't had a session like this since the one for 2K20. Yikes.
The final rating for WWE 2K23 is an 8 out of 10. Many improvements across the board show that Visual Concepts continues to better themselves while still falling victim to many of the core issues that plague yearly release sports games. This is usually when I'd give you a little glimpse of what review is coming next, but you already know that, so I'll ask you a question instead. What WrestleMania match are you most excited for? Personally, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos and Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre can get injected straight into my veins. Let me know, and I'll see you next time.
Continue.
Come Tuesday,